Okay, if I have not received your resume and headshot, you will not be given a number. You will not be able to audition without a number. Oh, God. This was never in my job description.
Hello, my name is Cole Hornaday and welcome back to The Panel Jumper. It's hard to believe this young man is over 75 years old, but Robin the Boy Wonder has been doing cartwheels and handsprings alongside his mentor Batman since he first appeared in Detective Comics number 38 in April of 1940. Robin, aka Dick Grayson, was one of a multitude of kid sidekicks flooding the market during what became known as the Golden Age of comics. Whether a marketing ploy or convenient plot device, rumors vary as to why every Tom, Dick, and Bruce suddenly required a sidekick. But Robin in particular proved problematic as his R began to rise. In the early 1950s, the comic book industry found itself in the midst of a witch hunt that earned it the attention of the newly formed Senate Subcommittee on Juvenile Delinquency and their star witness, Bavarian-born child psychologist Dr. Fredric Wertham. In an era when homosexuality was considered a mental illness, Wertham determined that the relationship between Batman and Robin was a corrupting influence on healthy young minds, and published it in his analytical expose, Seduction of the Innocent.
The Batman type of story may stimulate children to homosexual fantasies, of the nature of which they may be unconscious. Only someone ignorant of the fundamentals of psychiatry and the psychopathology of sex could fail to realize the subtle atmosphere of homoeroticism that pervades the adventures of the mature Bruce Wayne and his young friend, Robin.
Oh, big cats! Can you imagine? Those three men living alone together in that huge mansion? What would the neighbors say? Well, actually, if there was any corrupting influence to be found, it was Wertham. You see, for decades prior to the Good Doctor's damning revelation, Batman comics existed in a continuum of charm and innocence. Readers were enlisted in a rollicking, fun-loving, asexual, crime-fighting boys' club with the Batcave for a clubhouse and slumber parties rounding out an evening of thug-busting and daring-do. From that day forward, a cloud of homophobia would hover over the dynamic duo, the shadow of which Batman's publishers constantly sought to eradicate.
Ah, Nephew Steve, you made it. Okay, my sister would have killed me if I held this audition without you.
Wouldn't miss it, Uncle Manager Mike. I even brought my own homemade crime-fighting pistol. You know, for the thug-busting and the daring-do.
That's great, but give that to me for now. All right, everybody, the notice expressly stated there is no gas guns, jet-propelled grappling hooks, electric bullets, or bow stabs. This is strictly just a first look. You'll read some taglines, you'll strike some poses. Combat tryouts will be happening off-site in a much less flammable location. All right, don't worry, I'll keep this safe. Here's your number.
You look different.
Oh, I had to shave my beard.
That's not it.
Throughout their varied careers, Batman and Robin would have many a female companion, but a gay sentiment would always linger in the minds of the general public. In 2012, writer Grant Morrison went on record with Playboy magazine and offered up his thoughts.
Gayness is built into Batman. Batman is very, very gay. There's just no denying it. Obviously, as a fictional character, he's intended to be heterosexual, but the basis for the whole concept is utterly gay.
Well, that's your opinion. In the 1980s, DC's Teen Titans, a squad of high-profile sidekicks led by none other than the Boy Wonder himself, was experiencing an unprecedented rise in popularity in the hands of writer Marv Wolfman and artist George Perez. In 1984, Wolfman and Perez decided that Dick Grayson needed a new identity befitting his maturing years, and had him trade in his flesh-toned tights and pixie boots for the form-fitting fighting togs and Teflon batons of Nightwing in Tales of the Teen Titans number 44. Grayson's rite of passage left a void in the Cape Crusader's life. You see, Robin has always served a vital function in the Batman mythos. He gave the brooding, obsessed vigilante someone to care for, someone to keep him grounded and sane. He also provided some much-needed levity in an otherwise dark and gritty narrative. Homosexual stigma aside, the status quo had to be maintained.
Can I help, Uncle Manager Mike?
I'm just cataloging the weapons so they get back to the rightful owners.
Did you collect all of the weapons?
I sure did.
Then how come they still have theirs?
Hey, I said no weapons. Turn those over now. I guess you can keep them?
Enter Jason Todd. When he first appeared in Batman number 357 in 1983, readers liked him well enough, but he was really just a ginger-haired imitation of his predecessor, right down to being raised by a family of circus acrobats. However, in the aftermath of DC's massive reality-changing event known as the Crisis on Infinite Earths, writer Max Allan Collins revamped the character into a scrappy, petulant, streetwise loudmouth. In fact, when Batman met Jason again for the first time, he was boosting the tires from the Batmobile. Jason was now nothing like Dick Grayson. He brought something new to the Bat table, but fans just didn't care much for the new Robin. Denny O'Neil, editor of the Bat Family titles, took note of the fan community's growing dislike for the Dark Knight Detective's new chum and saw the opening for an unprecedented marketing opportunity.
I liked Jason. He was fresh and dramatic. He had story potential. He was accepted when he was a Dick Grayson clone. After Crisis, the readers just didn't take to him. I don't know now, and I probably never will know why. The readers just thought he was a usurper or something. The question came up, should we write him out of the story?
In what would go down in infamy as the telephone stunt, O'Neil hatched a plan that would involve readers in the creative process. Written by Jim Starlin and drawn by Jim Aparo, the four-part A Death in the Family story arc in Batman number 426 to 429 would hinge on a cliffhanger in which DC would allow the readers to choose the climax. They'd cast their vote via a 1-900 number. The media had a field day with the story, and public awareness of the event was unprecedented for a funny book. Witness the death of a sidekick. In violation of Batman's orders, Jason goes AWOL in search of the mother who abandoned him as an infant. He traces her to a refugee camp in Ethiopia where, in an act of self-preservation, she allies herself with Batman's arch-nemesis, the Joker. Upon discovering the sidekick of his mortal enemy, the Joker beats Jason to the edge of death with a crowbar. With Batman winging to the rescue, the Joker binds the unconscious Jason and his feckless mother to a post inside a warehouse and sets the timer on his bomb. On the back inside cover of Batman number 427, readers were offered two numbers to cast their votes at a cost of 50 cents a call. Participants had a 36-hour window to decide if Jason Todd lived or died. O'Neil was praised by promoters for his edgy marketing savvy until the votes were tallied and Batman number 428 hit the spinner racks.
The part's yours if you want it. Just let us go.
We don't care about the silly audition.
Then why are you doing this? What did we ever do to you?
We don't care about you. You're just bait.
The Bat.
And now it is up to the Bat to decide whether you two live or die.
Actually, it's up to you. As you can see, Manager Mike and Nephew Steve's lives hang in the balance. Will Batman arrive in time to save them from... I'm sorry, who are you?
I'm Deadly Nightshade.
And they call me Redox.
Will Batman arrive in time to save our friends from Eggplant and Redbox, or will they fall victim to this dastardly plot? Only you have the power to decide.
Previously on the Panel Jumper, mayhem, intrigue. Will Manager Mike and Nephew Steve be freed? Will Batman get to the comic book store in time to save them? The choice was up to you, and the choice has been made. Stay tuned.
The vote to whether or not kill off Jason Todd concluded with a total of 10,614 calls, 5,343 for, 5,271 against. Jason Todd was dead by a margin of 72 votes. It was then that the backlash began. Readers were shocked by the outcome. Children were in tears. Parents were outraged. Fans were pissed. And poor Denny O'Neil was absolutely flabbergasted.
But Jason wasn't real. He wasn't real. He was a phantom, the product of several imaginations. No kid really died. No kid really died!
For the moment, DC stuck fast by the outcome. It wasn't a gimmick. Jason Todd was dead and he wasn't coming back. For O'Neil, a strange but simple truth was laid by his doorstep. Though Jason Todd and his print peers were far from beings of flesh and blood, they'd had generations to root themselves in the collective consciousness. Characters like Batman and Robin populate our modern myths and folklore, and for some, have come to comprise members of a psychic family. It all begs the question, who really killed Robin? A recent online poll suggests that most voters didn't read comics, let alone Batman, and were unfamiliar with the Jason Todd Robin. They just loathed the Robin character and jumped at an opportunity to rub him out. Why? Why so serious? Many point to the Adam West Burt Ward TV series of the 1960s as a key culprit. For most non-comic book readers, Ward's performance as the hyperactive, smarmy man-child informed the popular interpretation of the Robin character. At some level, one could posit that this image of Robin, coupled with the persistent belief in a gay narrative behind the panels, was a threat to those seeking to fulfill a macho, heteronormative male power fantasy between the covers of their Batman comics. Fear of the queer killed Robin, and that doesn't just point the finger at the greed of DC's marketing machine, it points the finger at us.
Your days of roughing up innocent bookstore owners are over, punks. I'm placing you under arrest. You'll find enough evidence to arrest them, officers.
It's a slammer for you two.
The death of Jason Todd had a profound impact on comics. It told readers, for good or ill, their influence could drastically impact a collective fictional reality. In addition, Todd's death hearkened in what can best be described as the darkening of Batman, a tone visited a few years prior with Frank Miller's future tale, The Dark Knight Returns, twisting us far and away from that era of innocence that Dr. Wertham found so threatening. Miller's work was a groundbreaking storytelling experiment that would ultimately impact the films of Tim Burton, Christopher Nolan, and the joyless murderverse of Zack Snyder.
Thanks, Batman. Man, I hate it when he does that.
Friend of yours?
You still need to pick up your subscriptions!
The Dick Grayson model of a handspringing kid sidekick in domino mask and chainmail shorts is an artifact of a bygone age. Voters calling for the death of Jason Todd unknowingly took part in the permanent dismantling of an age of innocence. Of late, the Dark Knight and his fellow DC icons like Superman and Wonder Woman have experienced regular modern facelifts, revamps, and reboots in the hopes of divesting them of their archaic molds and making them more relevant, if not more marketable, to a post-9/11 world. Batman has become a high-tech, militarized urban warrior, and though ostensibly a lone savior in the dark, his fundamental model has not changed. Batman has always been a family man. Immediately following the aftermath of Jason Todd's death, Tim Drake made his debut as the third Robin, and since then, Tim has been followed by a steady stream of sidekicks and protégés who comprise a multicultural Bat family. This collage of supporting characters reflect our intrinsic need for community and remind us that we don't have to face the darkness alone. Thank goodness for family, psychic or otherwise. We'll see you next time on The Panel Jumper. And that doesn't just point the finger at the greed of DC's marketing machine, it points the finger at us. The Dick Grayson model of a handspringing kid sidekick in domino mask and chainmail shorts is an artifact of a bygone age. Voters calling for the death of Jason Todd unknowingly took part in the permanent dismantling of an age of innocence. Of late, the Dark Knight, alongside his fellow DC icons like Superman and Wonder Woman, have experienced regular modern facelifts, revamps, and reboots in the hopes of divesting them of their archaic molds and making them more relevant, if not more marketable, to a post-9/11 world. Batman has become a high-tech, militarized urban warrior, and though ostensibly seen as a lone savior in the shadows, his fundamental model has not changed. Batman has always been a family man. Immediately following the aftermath of Jason Todd's death, Tim Drake made his debut as the third Robin, And since then, Tim has been followed by a steady stream of protégés and sidekicks who've come to comprise a multicultural Bat family. This collage of supporting characters reflect our intrinsic need for community. It reminds us that we don't have to face the darkness alone. Thank goodness for family, psychic or otherwise. We'll see you next time on The Panel Jumper. A special shout out to Comics Dungeon and AJ Epstein of EMUD and West of Lenin. If you'd like to be one of our Patreon supporters, visit us at thepaneljumper.com and click on our Patreon button.